Welcome to Real Laughs on Real Radio 104.1. I am your host, Miguel Colon Jr. I am joined in virtual studios with my two good friends, my co-host, Mr. Mike Herlihy. Mike, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, man, doing good. How about you tonight? Feeling okay?
Feeling good. You know, I wanted to talk to you, Mike, because real quick, we've talked about the Fozzie that you have in the back, and I was calling Fozzie a hack comic, and then you said that Fozzie wasn't a hack because you brought up, you enlightened me, honestly, because you said Fozzie keeps doing original material. It might suck, but he keeps trucking along.
It always sucks. It's always horrible.
And he's always writing. And I literally, I posed that question to my sister because we used to watch Muppet Babies growing up. And she texts me later on. She's like, mind blown. Fozzie is following a dream.
Yeah, obviously.
But
Nice.
hey, real quick, if you're an open mic comic and you're listening, write some new stuff if they're throwing tomatoes at you. Like at that point, just
Or
it is you.
become a chef and make sauce.
Oh, James said when life hands you
When life
tomatoes,
gives you tomatoes.
you make a marinara.
Oh, that's what
Well,
you
that
do.
that voice you're hearing, kicking you with great life advice, is Mr. James Yawn. James, how you doing, brother?
Man, I'm doing really, really good, man. I can't complain. I'm in a good
James,
spot.
I'm going to tell you this: if you guys aren't watching the YouTube podcast of this, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, you've got to peep James's posture right now. He's very chaise lounge, like laying back.
I am.
As though he'd be being fed grapes by some Greek boy, while like several women laid around him, and he
From a distance, while Michelle looked at him really mean.
Yeah, well, that's how you get your rocks off. Other people in the room. Go back to some episodes, guys, and hear it. You know? James just getting fed grapes. Like, what are we to do about this Peloponnesian War? More turducken. When I think about ancient times like that, like even the most opulent times, they still had to be gross.
Yes,
like
thank you.
Still ancient Rome, ancient Greece, you know.
There was no flushing toilets. Like, wherever you went to do that was going to be horrendous, my friend.
I thought that was the whole purpose of the aqueducts in like ancient Rome, or was that just for fresh water? Like they had sewage in ancient Rome, right?
Sewage, right? But I mean, sure. Let's say that the toilets could flush. There wasn't a paper they flushed. You know, like you probably just had like a papyrus leaf, and you wiped it. You probably passed it to the guy next to you, like there's still a dry spot.
Can you spare?
Slaves had two hands. All right.
You think about it though, Mike. You make a point that's horrible, but like anything they didn't have an appliance for, they just had a slave for.
It was like the Flintstones using animals for garbage disposals.
And we got mad when we picked cotton. Can you imagine?
Because you think about it, that's where ingenuity came from. It was like some like aqueduct commode slave sitting there sewing papyrus together. And like, what are you doing? I got an idea because I ain't wiping no asses no more. It's called
necessity is the mother of invention.
Of all invention. That's
are
right.
The smartest slave, Mr. Shaman.
You.
Shamilius.
And then fast forward to 1900 Ozarks, like, hey, try this here pine cone. It will get everything.
The good thing about it is it sort of provides a pleasure too once you get used to it.
You can still go on the road, go through North Carolina, stop at a gas station, and there will be like above the toilet a basket of pine cones that says "Take one if needed," like as a joke. But I'm pretty sure somebody's tried it.
Oh, especially think about like the green pine cone that's like not sprawled out but ready to the enema cone. You're like, get in there, give it 2 twists for the Virgin Mary, and then pull them on out.
I took my kids to visit my parents down in Port St. Lucie this past weekend, and we drove past a street where I used to play in the woods with the neighborhood kids, and we do what was called pine cone wars. And my kids were like, "What?" I'm like, "It's a lot more intricate than it sounds." They're like, "What'd you do?" I'm like, we throw pine cones at each other. You know what? You had to be there. You had to be
But
there.
like, listen, it was a big step up from Rock Wars.
Yeah.
You
Wars
had
were
to
the worst.
find the
Yo.
perfect pine cone because these were all your friends. So you didn't want those little enema cones you were talking about because you could
The
kill
green one
someone,
would kill
take out a
somebody.
nine.
Yeah.
And you didn't want
Right.
the old soft ones because you throw them as hard as you can, like a wiffle ball. They go 2 feet. You
Yeah.
wanted that perfect mass of, okay, this is going to cause permanent damage that their parents are going to show up at my parents' house looking for me, but he's going to back the F off.
The best part about a pine cone war is when you got your face sliced open at the same time a tick crawled right on your head.
Oh.
I've had a few ticks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had James, your kids, they're not literally outside kids, man, because they're older too, man.
New kids will look at you funny when you say, "Hey, you guys want to go outside and play?" They're like, "Out there."
I can imagine your kids sitting there with an iPad. You're like, "What are you playing? Pine Cone War."
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
How are you playing it on Fortnite?
Yeah.
My buddy Justin would run around as a field medic. He's like, I got sap. We're going to stitch you up. We're going to stitch you up.
Don't you quit on me. Don't you quit.
I'm not losing another.
Look at me. You're going home. You're going home. Look at
me.
You're going home. I can't go home, Justin. My mom's not going to let me go back out. Okay.
I'm not going to lose you like I lost Mitch. Mitch, his dad took a job in South Dakota. Exactly.
Yeah. We lost a lot of good men with that company, you know.
That's awesome.
Did you guys have the rule too? Because my family rule was basically at any moment if you went back inside, my mom might not allow you to go back out for no good reason.
That's
like
right.
You're like, hey, just come back in and get some baseball cards and my rubber bands. You're staying in. It's 2:30 in the afternoon. You're staying in. I'm tired of you running in and running out.
Right, yes.
What is this about?
Oh, I just want some water. Drink out of the hose. Warm hose water is the reason that people our age aren't getting COVID.
It's also the reasons our bones are probably hollow.
That's right. My kids have no idea about drinking out of the hose. They would freak the hell out. They would call Child Protective Services, like themselves. I told them to drink out of a hose.
Rightfully so nowadays.
My father, but he is not acting like a father. He has made me drink out of the hot hose water. Yes, I'll hold, Dad. They're laughing. Do you remember this though? And this I pose this question, which is weird in this day and age, where things are a little bit weirder than I remember growing up. I do think things like social issues have gone better. I do feel we're living in a better world. We just see so much more. But I think now, man, like kids would get arrested by a grown-up if they walk to a random house's hose and drink water. I could see more of these like Karens out there freaking out and being like, this person trespassed or hopping gates. You remember hopping gates to cross yards?
Yes, and that was cool.
And like you sometimes would get yelled at, or you might get snatched up by a dad who's like, you hop through my goddamn gate one more time. I'm gonna beat the crap. And you're like, okay, this is one of the houses we don't hop through. But
now we know.
I could honestly see an individual calling the cops on the kids now, being like, they're drinking out of my hose.
And that used to be a neighborhood courtesy. If there's a hose, drink at it, knock yourselves out.
I've really learned. I went back home, was going through some photo albums of me when I first moved to Florida. I was like 8 years old. I lived a mile from my elementary school, and my parents would let me ride my bike with my older brother, who was a year older than me, and our neighbor, who was my brother's age. We would ride our bikes a mile to school 5 days a week. No cell phones, no nothing. And I'm like, how old was I there?
Amazing, too.
What was I? Yeah, like 16, 17? They're like, no, you were like 8. I have a 10-year-old son that if he steps foot outside my house, I'm like, leave the door open so I can see you. And he steps into the driveway. I'm like, I can't see you. Get back here. I am a helicopter parent, man. And I was looking at these photos. I'm like, did you guys just not love me? Why would you send me out there and not know if I was even alive until I rode my bike back home at 3:30 every day? You know,
no, man, that you're right, Mike. And then here's the thing I wonder too. I kind of worry how I would be judged by other parents, even if I wanted to do the things with the kid that like I was allowed to do. Like I think if I was like, no, ride your bike 4 miles down to the mall and come back, I know that people would be like, you let that kid do that, you know?
There was an article in the paper about 3 months ago or something. I read it, and it was basically someone called the police because they found an 8-year-old girl wandering around the neighborhood by herself. And at first I was like, who lets an 8-year-old kid? I'm like, wait a minute, that was just called playing, dude.
Yeah.
That was just called playing.
She was looking for something to play with.
But I think they
Oh my
started.
God.
I think that took into effect where they were passing a law where if you're under 10 years old or something, you need to be accompanied
Supervised.
by an adult or something. I'm like going, man, that seems weird to have adult supervision until you're 10, but 5 years later you're allowed to be driving a car.
Yeah.
It's
And it seems weird to have adult supervision at that age when it's like I remember we moved to North Carolina, we got stationed there, and I never had like woods. And we had woods all in the back. And my biggest thing was wake up in the morning before my parents woke up to go walk outside in these woods and map them out like a kid and stuff. And I'd
Yeah.
spend all day doing it. And I wonder now, I can't imagine my mom now knowing that she woke up at 7 in the morning, her son was gone, and then he came back before dark, and then she's just like, "Hey, how was your day?" You know?
Yep. Yeah.
we should redo all 80s movies with helicopter parents. Like, no, you're not going to explore a cave. You're not going to explore a cave and look for treasure. I don't care if you're trying to save the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
not going
Guess
down.
what, Goonies? We're losing the house. Okay.
Roll credits.
I love that. How adventure saved everyone.
Yeah.
If I didn't go on this adventure, we would lose this house, Mom. Is that what you want? Is that what you want, Karen?
Listen, Father. Listen right now, because only me and you care. It seems. You know.
Yes.
This bitch. I said it. This bitch is not gonna let us search for pirate treasure because she doesn't give a damn about what we built here.
Yeah.
And what do you mean that the gimp can't live with us? What do you mean?
We let the Chinese kid live in the neighborhood. Everybody thought that was weird.
Yeah.
Turns out Data's awesome.
Not only that,
Okay.
didn't the dad work at like the museum and he's the reason they had the
Yeah.
map? How's it feel to be like this archaeological type guy, have all this information, but your kids go out in one afternoon and find everything you've been searching for your entire
Your whole life.
I want to give shout out to Mike Hurley. He's like Italian, basically Italian working class background. When being like, instead of saying archaeologist, it's archaeological type guy.
The guy, he digs stuff up,
You know, like a Polish Indiana Jones fella.
He'd be able to find the treasure if he could read the map. You know
What do you mean he's not Polish? He went on to play a Hobbit. That's like their people, right?
Right? Right?
Right? He's not Polish.
Short, a little bit hairy. What?
Yeah.
Whoa, hey, do I offend?
Yeah. No, I like the guy. I wish he was over. I give him a little bonjour, a little sacarabosa. You know? Have him over here. The guy's a good guy. He's a good guy. I'm just saying.
He's a good guy.
Am I going to let him marry my sister? No, that's against the
No.
Bible. But can I do business with him? Sure. Just because you're a little stupid doesn't mean we can't have a little bit together, you know? He's like the half black Puerto Rican kid down the neighborhood. I love that guy. I get a guy for everything, you know. I let him in my house. We eat dinner together, you know. But I mean, we're different. You know, it's different. You know? I say this hands down. I've said it on this show, and if you're a listener to Real Laughs, you've heard it before. But I say this: I wish all my racism was Italian racism, where it doesn't come across so hateful. It's definitely still stupid. Let's say that all racism is incredibly stupid. But there's just like my favorite thing Italian racism was like, yeah, can I make money with the guy? Can I run with him? Yeah, is he a good guy? Is that my guy? You step to that guy, you step into me. Okay, that's like that guy. That's that he's Sacro Pizza Bara. How do you say it, Bobby?
Ew.
How do you say it, Bobby? He's like my family. Yeah, be like, well, he's got to think for your sister. Oh my God, that's the babies are gonna come out weird.
Do I love him? Do I love that guy? Yeah. Would I let him use my bathroom? What are you, crazy?
Yeah, Maron. There's rules to these things. I didn't make them. That's what happened when they tried to climb up the Tower of Babel and talk to God. He set the rules, but guy's solid.
Crap.
I was inside with some tough gays in the joint. They're solid. You're like, is this racial tirade full of compliments? What's going on here?
Oh my God!
You just gotta smile, pat him on the back while you're saying it, and throw in on my mother every now and then.
On my mother.
On my mother. On my mother.
Gets it. Not for nothing, Mike. I'm not saying nothing about you. I love James Young. I love him. He's so like a cherub cheek. I'm just saying, not for nothing. He's still Marco Grizzi, you know. But whatever, have them over. Have them over. Don't have them over for Sunday dinner, but afterwards, have them over. Drink some campari. We'll talk, man. He's good. He's a good man.
I love it. I love it.
I'm Sicilian, so hey, I know a thing or two about some Moors. He's all right. They're all right. They gave us pine nuts and raisins, and I use that in so many dishes. I can't, put up some chicken. Make him at home.
There you go. Yeah.
Hey guys, we're gonna go to a break. When we come back with Real Laughs, I want to talk about two interesting stories that kind of correlate with each other. And they both involve police in the Los Angeles area. You listen to Real Laughs on Real Radio 104.1. Welcome back to Real Laughs on Real Radio 104. Thank you for listening. Remember, you can hear us always on iTunes. You can hear us on SoundCloud. You can hear us on Spotify, or you can hear us on the iHeartRadio app. And you don't have to just listen to our show. You can listen to all our sister shows too, like The Monster in the Morning, The News Junkie, The Colbert. Jim Colbert Show. I'm about to say Colbert Report. The Jim Colbert Show, and of course, Tom and Dan. But thank you guys, as always, for listening. I'm in virtual studio with Mr. Mike Hurley. He's a kind of radio kind of guy. And we got Mr. James Yawn over here as well, my two partners in crime. I'm very happy to have on the show with me today. I want to talk to you guys about a story I read, which is really interesting. It's also kind of heartbreaking. But basically, it started out with the headline that the mayor of the city of Compton in California is asking the FBI to investigate the Compton Police Department because of corruption. And the Compton Police Department, which is attached to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, the mayor's asking the FBI to investigate because there's been information provided by officers as well as tipsters and people in the community that inside the Compton Police Department, there's actually a gang, and the gang is called the Executioners, and it's made up of all white officers that are males. No people of color or women are allowed. And they rock tattoos basically with a skull, a Nazi helmet, and an AK-47. And they're proudly rocking them and everything.
What?
But the thing is, they're operating like their own gang. And what happened was, there was an officer, a former Marine, a Latino officer. He called up the tipster line, the Internal Affairs tipster line, and made a complaint saying, there's a gang inside of our unit called the Executioners. I believe they said it makes up about 60 officers altogether in it.
60?
And he dropped everything about the officers that were in it, told them what they were doing, saying that they were rolling together, to the point that officers who were in different sides of town would respond to calls for each other. Not like the officer that was closest or something. If an executioner called, another executioner would leave wherever they were to come over and handle this. And they would roll up like 10 cars deep on stuff. Enough so that they actually ran up on the mayor of Compton herself, didn't know who she was, came about 10 cars deep, had her getting out of the car, handcuff, everything. And she lodged a complaint. Well, the officer who called up and lodged the complaint to the Internal Affairs tipsters line, the next day, his call was being played in the station. The Internal Affairs tipster line had recorded it, and someone leaked it out to the Executioners.
Are you... What?
So, I mean, it's interesting. I know that you guys, we all grew up during like the Rampart era in LA with like the Crash Cops. You guys remember the movie Colors?
I remember that, yes.
And the LA Police Department and the LA County Sheriff's Office has always had like a history of there being like really just like blurring the lines cops. The movie like Training Day was based on like the Rampart era and the fact that there used to be a crew called the Regulators who ran around there. Now they were made up of mixed race officers. Some of them are being alleged to be involved in the Tupac murder. Lots of bank robberies that happened. There was a story about these 4 homicide cops that were all regulators that were in the LA County Sheriff's Department. And what they would do is they were hitmen. 4 cops were hitmen. And 2 of them would do the hit and make sure it happened on the shift in the area where the other 2 would catch the body. And they would rotate that out. So, I mean, police corruption to that level is something that I think we've heard about for a long time in places like LA. New York had the 7-1 precinct and the 7-3 precincts that had to be almost shut down because of that. But does it shock you guys? Does it shock you to hear this?
Or is it like, it still does. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
Because I'm very naive in the fact that I think the way things are supposed to work are the way things are supposed to work. Like you hire cops to protect and serve. So if I hear that on a level like that of mass corruption and murder, that cops the people that we're supposed to look to protect us, the people we're supposed to look to stop crime from happening, are committing murders. They're hitmen. The fact that they're shaking people down and they're basically a gang is still shocking to me. It's still surprising that people that we look to do good are the ones out there doing evil. And I know this because I'm naive. I want to see the good in the world. That's just always going to be me. So it still shocks me when I hear it.
It's not shocking to me. Like I believe that at some level there's cliques in every department with cops who think the same way. You know, as far
Yeah.
as, hey, we're allowed to cross lines to get this done. I think a lot of times it starts from a good place of like, I'm here to do a good job, and then you get frustrated, and like every cop movie goes,
Yeah.
you know, like I'm going to
Yeah.
start crossing the line because they don't play by the rules. Why should I? What I find shocking is that these guys are sending out and getting T-shirts screen printed and ball caps and everything else. Usually, this is something that's kind of low key, secret handshake in the background. You're not out there getting tattoos of Nazi helmets and skulls, so everybody knows who. Once you've hit that level of comfort, that you can show up for work dressed like that, and that people know you're rolling with that crew, you just don't care anymore.
Yeah, when you got a Printify account,
Yeah.
you've shopped out 9 different mouse pads, and you're like, "Yeah, I got this one. This is going to be the source one."
Yeah,
and
and I feel like anyone in the department who let it get to that level, even if you weren't actively participating, you need to go. You know, if you let that happen on your watch, that people feel so comfortable being like, look, we got this internal gang. You got a cool little, hat. And then you get to no women, no people of color, nothing personal, you know, just we're old school, you know, then you need to go too, because you allowed that to happen.
And Miguel, they have to. If they're that big, like Mike is saying, to his point, if they're 60 deep and it grew inside that precinct, somebody at the top had to be involved.
Guys, they got the internal affairs leaked them the audio tape.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, so basically the cops who are supposed to police the police were like, hey, you got to hear this. You know, and that's letting you know the level of corruption is up there. And this is, I think one of the most tragic parts about all this is you've got to now wonder about every case that's come through this precinct. And wonder, you know, like, hey, the guy who we caught burglarizing this house, did he do it? Or was he just a guy that these guys have beef with, you know? You know, and I think I hate the argument. People are like, yeah, but they're just a bunch of bad apples, because the problem is they don't finish the saying, bad apples ruin the bunch. And they did ruin the bunch, because you think any other cop's going to come out and call internal affairs after internal affairs leaked the phone call?
Oh, no.
You know, if there is a silent majority, they're going to just allow this to keep on happening, because at the end of the day, it's basically like the reason you let the mob terrorize your neighborhood. Because what's going to happen? Who's going to stop it? Do I want to keep paying $200 a week so they don't burn my store down? No, but no one's going to help me. So I just got to keep doing what I'm doing.
And this does blow cases wide open. Like the same thing whenever you find someone working in a DNA lab was doing drugs on the wrong time or something.
I saw that.
Now they got to go back and question all those cases. You know, there's a guy sitting in jail for a murder he didn't commit going, well, maybe now I can get my case looked at. But there's also a guy named Steven going, Margaret, I am now going to fight that jaywalking ticket, because this type of corruption cannot stand.
Steven walked into the middle of the kitchen of his parents' house where he lives, and he was like, just see this? And you all told me that I wasn't walking on the crosswalk.
I'm going to have the mayor personally apologize at Temple this weekend.
At Temple.
I am make me sit in the back row.
How dare you?
Have you guys ever had an experience where, like, and I'm not just talking police, but where you were just put in a situation where somebody was so corrupt with their power that you were just jaw dropped that you were in this? I've had one that had nothing to do with cops. I've had some that have to do with cops, but I don't want to play around and pretend like I've suffered the injustice that other people have suffered. You know, I've had those situations where cops where I'm like, get out of here. This is ridiculous. But I've actually had a situation with TSA where the woman at TSA said that this group had popped off to her and said something, and I wasn't a part of the group. And she literally took me and 2 other people in front of us, and she was telling them, get rid of all of them. And we're like, ma'am, and even the group of people were like, listen, those guys, they don't even know those guys. We don't know those guys. Because they were like, this is ridiculous. And she was like, "I don't care." And I'm realizing that she's like, kick him out, send him to the security office." And I've got like 30 minutes for my flight. And at that moment, I'm like, there's nothing I can do. Like,
Mm-mm.
they're not, nobody's listening to me. The only thing that stopped
Mm-hmm.
it was like those guys kept arguing with her enough that like a supervisor of hers came over and I just kept moving with the people in front of us. We're like, keep moving, keep moving. But she was going to throw us all out and send us to the
Mhm,
security
Wow.
office. And she
Mm-hmm.
knew that we had nothing to do, but she didn't care anymore. She got
mhm,
pushed to the point where she didn't care. And there's when you get into situations when you realize you always thought oh, I got a little power, I can do whatever. This is not how things operate. But when you get put in a situation where you realize, no, you don't got power.
mhm.
Other people can tell you what to do. It does. It opens your eyes. Have you guys ever been in a situation similar where
Where you had no
yeah,
power?
where you had no
Absolutely.
power? Yeah,
Absolutely.
you've been married for 24 years, so
Yeah, pretty
yeah,
much. Yeah. So, whew, I gave mine away.
yeah,
No, actually, at jobs I've had before, I've had managers that abuse their power, and they're the middle management to the upper management. So their word meant a lot more than yours.
yeah,
So they could get you in trouble by bending the truth, and
yeah,
you would figure out really quickly there's nothing you could do.
yeah,
You just had to take what was coming to you, even though
yeah.
you didn't do it, even though you didn't do any of the things they're accusing you of. You just had to take it. So yeah, you're like, all right, I'm a grown ass man, but I'm
That's
being treated like a child.
that's
That's where
the
it's like,
that's the
yeah,
frustration, and that's why sometimes
yeah,
when I watch videos, I was watching a video with my mom about this kid in Denver who was picking up trash outside of his dorm, and
I
the cops
yes.
rolled up on him,
Oh, I
and
saw that one.
he got pissed off after a while because he's like, "Listen, I'm picking up trash. Here's my ID." And he started getting mad at the cop. And of course, my mother's first thing was she was like, "He needs to calm down because this is how people end up getting shot." She's like, "It's not his fault." She's like, "But he needs to calm down." But what I was telling her is like, "You're right to an extent. If you want to think about your safety,
Yes,
but that doesn't happen when you're feeling like Jesus Christ, this is really happening to me. Am I minding my business, doing everything right that I'm supposed to do, and someone can just take my power away from me like that?" You
take your
know?
civility away from you.
Yeah.
That's what it is, and there's nothing you can do that gets to you as a man. I
Yeah.
don't care who you are. You can call it ego, you can call it pride, but when you take my humanity away from me, like I have no choices, no civil rights, that's when you start to feel a certain way. And I saw
Yeah.
that video, and I give him credit because you could tell he was holding back even
Yeah.
some. Miguel, he was really pissed about the whole thing.
Yeah. It's just as I watch this story, I just think about all the times that I know that there are tons of good officers.
Yes, yes,
I know for a
absolutely.
fact there are more good people in the world than bad people. I'm not naive. There are. I look at the world.
Yes.
I look at the world. But bad people are louder. Sometimes they're
Mm,
stronger. They're meaner. They're more determined. They will stand up more, and that's a
yeah,
horrible thing. But the truth is, bad people they have like almost like a righteous indignation where they're like, no, I'm gonna do what I want and I don't care. And
yeah.
good people generally have a, well, let me just stay out of it. Let me stay out of it. And that's where we lose so much. What's the old adage? All it takes is good men to do nothing for evil to prevail. And
That's
that's
right.
where I see problems with like the police force and things like that. I know for a fact this world, and I'm not naive, this world is full of more good people who just want to take care of their friends and families and not hurt
Hmm.
anybody. But the problem is the bad people are down to scrap. And
Yep.
and if you're a good person, you got to be too.
Y-
Well, Miguel, you've done your time in bars and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and we've been in our share of scraps. And every now and then, when something's about to pop off or escalate, people would try to grab me and be like, dude, they're mine. Let it go. You gotta let karma just deal with them." I'm like, did you ever stop to think maybe I'm karma?
Yeah,
Maybe that's my
exactly.
job today. Maybe
Yeah.
these guys are walking around because everybody feels like it's someone else's responsibility to deal with it. Maybe all he needs is one good slap. Like, I'll tell
Yeah.
you, I've lost way more fights than I've ever won in my life. But
Yeah.
when I feel like I need to fight, I would fight,
yeah.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I look back now, and there were fights I lost where I was in the right, but I got smacked. So I didn't say stuff about that anymore because I was like, no, I'm right. But man, all it takes sometimes is one good slap to go, maybe I should watch what I say more often.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I had
You
a
know what's very articulate? Fists.
yeah. And like you said, Mike, sometimes you do just have to fight. You know the times you don't, but you
Hmm.
also know the times you do. You
Yeah.
know it in your
Absolutely.
heart. And like you said, good people trying to tell you, "Hey, just let this go, just let this pass." And so what? So another guy who can't even handle himself is going to just get totally walked over?
Mhm.
I could throw down a little bit. You know, I mean, this is my time. I tell you what ruined everything though, the MMA craze. Because now everybody knows how to put you in an arm bar. And I'm like,
Yep.
stop it.
You know what? You know what ended my fighting days? Kids.
Yeah, you got
That's
somebody
it.
to go home
Because
to.
back, even if
Well,
you don't like
it's
them,
more than that. Yeah.
I can't get locked up tonight. I
Yep.
can't
Yep.
spend 2 days. I can't miss my real world job
Yeah.
anymore and potentially lose it, because even if I knock this guy out, that messes with my livelihood. That takes care of them.
That's
So
exactly it.
and I feel like a lot of people know that nowadays. So yeah, for me,
try.
especially being so easy to anger, a lot of times it's so hard, but you got to do the turn the other cheek.
I tell you one
Yeah.
last note before we go to anybody listening. Yes, if you start something with a family man, he's going to try to walk away, but you back a family man into a corner. That's the worst thing you've ever dealt with, because he's got
Amen.
people who depend on him.
Depend on
He
him.
can't
That's right.
lose.
That's
Hey, guys,
right.
We're going to go to commercial. When we come back, we'll have some more Real Laughs on Real Radio. Welcome back to Real Laughs on Real Radio 104.1. I am joined in virtual studio with my main man, Mr. James Yawn, and of course, the hilarious Mr. Mike Hurley. Fellas, I was looking up today, like birthdays, and 3 birthdays that struck out to me today are Roman Polanski's birthday.
Wow. Okay.
Christian Slater, who I thought Christian Slater was the next Jack Nicholson. I didn't realize it wasn't going to happen.
So many people
Did I? Yeah.
I saw the movie Cuffs, and I was like, this guy is hilarious. It's one of those things that I think guys don't admit it much when we have like a guy man crush. And it's not like man, I want to make passionate love to Christian Slater. That, crush the mind. But more it's like, this guy is so freaking cool. And I was a little kid.
I have a man crush. I
Who's
mean,
that?
really, I loved him as an athlete, loved him as an actor. I think he's
The Rock, right?
The Rock, man.
Yeah,
Yes,
we talked about this. Yeah.
bro. I love The Rock, dude. He's one of those dudes I would love to sit down with, have a beer, have a meal, and just talk to the dude. He seems like he would be a hell of a dude to hang out with.
Just scissor, just
whatever. Big, I'm little spoon. You know what I mean?
Hey, I told you one of the best things I ever. My father's like, my father. He retired from the Marine Corps. Then he retired he did 26 years in the Marine Corps, and then he did 20 years in the county, and now he's fully retired. So his job now is housework and Netflix. And I tell you, I came to the house one day to eat an ice cream sandwich. He was like, "You want your movie or something?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he was like, "Ooh," he's like, "Do you watch Luke Cage?" And I was like, "Yeah, I love Luke Cage." He goes, "I got a man crush on that brother." He's like, he goes, and I'm looking at my dad like, what? And he's just joking. He goes, "I'm gonna tell you this, man." He's like, one of the things that guys, especially from like my father's generation, though, will say that I've always appreciated is they'll be like, that dude's handsome. Like there wasn't a thing on our father's generation to be afraid to say a guy was handsome, because they were basically like, or like my father's always like, Steve Harvey, that guy put together. Like, like those are like the things they say. There wasn't that like super, like our generation had that whole no homo, like, I got to make sure I'm not trying to sleep with Tom Selleck, but he's cool.
In your dad's defense, he is super secure. Your dad's a Marine. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
My dad made a comment one time, and he was like, "I can't understand how civilians can't get naked in front of each other." He's like, "I spent 26 years butt to nut showering with another guy." And he's like, I go, "Yeah." And I asked him something, and I was like, did it make it any weird? He's like, "No, you don't look at another guy's junk. That's when it gets weird."
Great point.
Yeah.
That should be the new Marine slogan. We shower naked with men so you don't have to.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, man.
I never appreciate. Where do I donate? Thank you so much.
Take it all. Jeff is like, I'll sign up.
Let's see what you're talking
about.
Oh,
that's funny.
Wait a minute. I don't do before 6, though.
Yeah. Can all of our wars be after brunch? Coastal. Like, I joined the Marines because I like beaches.
Yeah.
Also, birthday today, a posthumous birthday. Sir Patrick Swayze. I've served him. I was a huge Patrick Swayze fan because of Roadhouse, Next of Kin, even horrible movies like Black Dog. But then he started having like this resurgence around the end. Like he did what was the one? Donnie. What's the kid's name? Donnie Darko. He was
Donnie
in Donnie
Darko, that's right.
Darko.
Yeah.
He was in that show The Beast on A&E at the end,
Yes.
which was really
Yes.
good. But Patrick Swayze is actually the star of one of my favorite movies, Red Dawn.
Yeah.
Yes.
Loved Red Dawn.
Yes.
The
And
original one, not the Chris
original one.
Helmsworth remake. Yeah.
I think
yeah.
in the remake of Red Dawn, Chris Helmsworth dies, and I think he made them write that in halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
He was just like, "Hey, can somebody shoot me? Because this is not. I'm not
Wait,
playing the Jed I thought I was going to be playing."
Wait,
Yeah.
I still get paid, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
All right,
Kill me
fellas.
like this movie's gonna kill my career.
Yeah. All right, fellas, they want me to play T-Whore. I'm going to play T-Whore in a Marvel movie.
Marvel.
Go ahead and wrap this up. All right, Josh Peck, this is your film. You know?
Nice.
Drake's just outside like, you think I could be in the movie too? No, you shunned me when I was fat. You know?
That's right.
But Red Dawn was my movie growing up. It was a bonding movie for me and my dad because we would watch Red Dawn and we would sit there and he would talk to me about like guerrilla tactics and things like that. And it really like when we used to play G.I. Joe, like this is one of my things that me and my dad would play G.I. Joe. Sometimes I would set up all the G.I. Joes and sometimes he would just come in and be like, "Really? Look how weak that side is." And I'd be like, "Ah!"
Yeah,
That's awesome.
but Dad, that side has Optimus Prime. They're gonna do fine.
Yeah.
There'd be times like that. There'd be times like that. I'd be like, "They got Optimus Prime and 3 Barbies. They're like giants." And he's like,
Yeah.
It's funny.
And
I was at an arcade one day, it was called Hookoo's. They shut it down. It was across from Florida Mall. It was kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese. You go in, you play video games, you get tickets, win prizes. And my son wanted the little green army men, you know?
Yeah.
So he was picking out, the guy's like, yeah, you can pick out like 20 of them. So he's picking them out. And I'm like, get the one that's like lying down. And the guy looks at me, he's like, oh, you want a couple in the prone position? I'm like, this guy, he's taking care of an arcade now, but this guy has killed some people.
yeah.
Like this guy took this job and is trying to get his life back to normalcy, but he gets flashbacks every time one of those video games goes off, like you know.
Hey, my dad one time, because there's always a Marine Corps Army rivalry, and I had all the little Army men, and I had G.I. Joe set up everywhere, and then I had all the Army men, and he started putting them all in the back of everything, and I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "The Marines are fighting the war, and the Armies aren't back with supply." You know?
Wow! Hoorah!
Meanwhile, I'm just shuffling through. I can't find the guy with the fife. Where's the fife guy?
Hey, it's funny because you know
Awesome.
I would watch shows like we'd watch Red Dawn, we talk about it and stuff, and me and my dad were recently talking about maybe a couple years back, and he was like, he's like, all the things you grew up learning and stuff like that. He's like, you definitely have an understanding and skills, and I was like, Dad, I was like, if there was a Red Dawn situation, I would hope to God we still had a USO because I'd be running that.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
All the fit young men were fighting the war. I'd be like, all right, guys, remember, it's Sharks vs. Jets, West Side Story. I'm Maria. Okay.
And you know what's really cool about that, Miguel? One thing I enjoy when I'm with you is through your bonding with your dad, you got an extensive education in how the armed forces work. Like
Yeah,
really,
that's
you have a huge knowledge of that. I love when you tell me about that. That's one of the things that I enjoy when we spend time together. We're on the road. We will have long conversations about why things are set up the way they are, what's the role of each military branch, and how they interact, and how that stuff works. And I love that. So definitely, you had a lot of time spent with your dad, man.
All right,
God
let's
bless.
ruin some illusions, Miguel.
Yes.
Hearing that, how much of that did you make up just because you had his attention and you're like, he's really liking these stories? I gotta be like, yeah. And then my dad spent 14 years teaching Mr. Miyagi Jeet Kune Do.
I'm like, what else do we got? All right, James, you know anything about the first Peloponnesian Wars? Nope. Good. Okay.
Well, they were in Polynesia.
Yeah. Polynesia is what it used to
Yeah.
be called.
There's a great warrior named Moana. You ever heard of her? Okay.
Yeah.
You've heard about the upset in Georgia, right?
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yeah. So it was
Awesome.
it was a big war, and you don't want to hear these stories, James. Let's go to White Castle.
I'm like, that's how you distract me. Yay, White Castle.
Yeah, that's how we both get distracted.
Let's go to
True.
Waffle House. I'll let you put $1 in the
True.
jukebox. Play some of
Yeah.
those
Ah.
jams you like. Yeah.
We will turn any Waffle House into a jam.
I'm ready to
Mhm.
start Club Waffle House again on the road, guys. Like,
Amen. Amen.
well, you know what's funny too? Little military-esque side note too. Uh, the President Donald Trump, has been talking about pardoning Edward Snowden. If you guys don't remember Edward Snowden was a big player in the WikiLeaks with
Doesn't he
drop.
go by Edwina now? Or was that someone else?
No, that's the other gentleman who's now. Oh, what is her name? I can't remember her name now. But
Yeah,
yeah, Snowden's kicking it in Russia. So none of that.
hanging with
You
Putin.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Putin's like, listen, the
Well,
other
he
one, he's a
he leaked
little,
the fact that the government was spying on citizens.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
We're fine with espionage, but don't go wearing dresses.
yeah. You put on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
dress, and then next thing you know, you die in plane crash, and you're laying. It's very weird. Russia's a weird place. There's
Oh,
this
you-
reporter. He said something nasty about me, and then a wolf shot him.
a wolf.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking Chelsea Manning. I
Chelsea
apologize.
Manning.
Yes.
And what was
Yeah.
Chelsea Manning's name when she was in the military? I trying to remember. Was it? I can't remember because I watched. Because I'm a very educated person. I watch both their Netflix documentaries.
Oh, there you go.
That's
You're well informed.
yeah,
There you
very informed. Yes.
Hand on the pulse. Yes.
Yes. Yes. But
Yeah.
how do you? I honestly feel like this. This is how I feel about with people like Edward Snowden. Edward Snowden released that our government was spying on us. Edward
Yes.
Snowden's job was to uphold the Constitution and defend our country. So
Yes.
I understand Edward Snowden being charged with espionage.
Yes.
And I also think that that should come with a commuted sentence and be released. Because if your job is to uphold the Constitution and make sure that the United States is safe, and you find out that from enemies both foreign and domestic, and
Yes.
you find out intelligence agencies are conducting incredibly legal operations that are violating the freedoms of everyday American citizens, you are at a crossroads as a military person. But
and the fact that you helped develop it unbeknownst to
right,
you.
unbeknownst to
Yeah,
you.
unbeknownst to
So
you. Yeah.
I understand them charging Edward Snowden, but I think that's one. I have this big belief on charge and then let's lay it out. Charge him, lay it out there in a trial. Let America hear what happened, and
Yeah.
then tell me that this man is guilty. And the same thing with Chelsea Manning. So I do hope President Donald Trump pardons Edward Snowden. I think Edward
So do I.
Snowden's due for a pardon.
So do I.
And don't get this. I love that people are going to be like, "Oh, but that's not pro-military. That's not pro-America." No, Edward Snowden. Definitely, because I believe he was a ranger, hurt his leg, and had to leave the program. But Edward Snowden wanted to serve this country, and
Yes, he did.
and he
He was a
released
patriot.
information. Yeah, he released information about what this country was doing, and I believe he deserves being pardoned. My question to you guys is there anyone else you would pardon if you were president? Like, is there somebody that you're like, yeah, they got to go. Like they deserve to be pardoned.
That's
Hmm.
that's a hard question because we're saying that people that are right now in prison serving sentences who we think would deserve to not go.
I say we pardon C Murder, even though I know he did all those crimes. But I just want a whole No Limit Family album again, man. Master P,
Gotcha.
Silk, C Murder.
Here's the weird things. There's certain cases that happen where you're like, they didn't do anything wrong. And I'm going to go back to an old case, but we're all familiar with it. Martha Stewart went to jail for insider trading.
Yeah.
What basically happened, she didn't ask anybody to give
Yeah.
her any information. She was hit up by a friend who said, "Yo, Martha, you know that stock you have in this company? It's about to go bad. You might want to sell it." She didn't ask for that information.
Yeah.
But all she did was she had the information in her head. She knew she's going to lose significant amounts of money
Yeah.
if she did nothing. And so she took that information and she protected herself financially and she went to prison for it.
That's like somebody
So-
calling you up being like, "Hey man, the police are about to raid your house right now," and you're like, "I'm gonna leave my house."
Yes.
I don't
or-
want to be in my. We open the door so they don't have to kick it open.
Gotcha. Somebody's coming to murder you. The only way to get away right now is to speed illegally in your car. I'm speeding. Give me a ticket. So I can't say that Martha did anything wrong in instances like that. I know how the
Yeah.
laws work. I understand that insider trading, but if you call me up and give me a warning, I'm going to heed that warning.
Mike,
That's
we
just
got
me.
1 minute left. Which one of your uncles do you want pardoned?
No, most of them have died peaceful deaths, so they're good. Yeah. And by peaceful, I mean 2 shots from a piece to the back of the head.
He committed suicide. He shot himself 6 times in the
I'm
face.
going the other way, man. I'm not pardoning anyone. I mean, I'm sure there's cases in there where if I looked at it, I'd be like, yeah, they did 30 years for a small time charge just because of this. No, they need to go. I'm going the other way. I'm going opposite. All those people right before this pandemic who sold off all their Carnival cruise lines and hotel stuff in politics, they're going in. They're going in. You don't just happen to dump $3 million worth of stock 4 days before we announce we're shutting down the country. You don't do that. Yeah.
Well, guys,
you're right.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember, guys, I'm going to be at Margaritaville this weekend, Friday and Saturday. You can go to bonkers.com and find tickets. Guys, thank you so much. We got a good show tomorrow on Wednesday, hosted by Mr. Mike Hurley, and on Thursday by Ken Miller. As always, you're listening to Real Labs, Real Radio 104.1.